Ottawa and Alberta just signed a massive energy deal to build a new pipeline. But if you look for the blueprints, you'll find a project missing two crucial pieces. There is no private buyer, and there are zero plans for a physical route. The scale of the ambition is massive. Both governments have greenlit a proposed West Coast pipeline designed to transport more than 1 million barrels of Alberta oil every single day. This timeline illustrates the aggressive schedule they've set. To make this work, they need shovels in the ground by September 2027, with crude oil flowing by 2033. But right now, there are no institutional investors footing the bill. With no corporate backer stepping up, Alberta has to act as the project's sole proponent until they submit a formal proposal in July. And even if they secure the funding, they don't actually know where to lay the pipe. The two sides shook hands on a multi-billion-dollar concept that currently lacks a designated pathway to the Pacific Ocean. Getting that oil to flow will require surviving a clash between three distinct factions: an uneasy political alliance, a stubborn regional resistance, and the unpredictable wildcards holding the final veto. The first faction is the unlikely partnership between the federal government and Alberta. To get this project moving, Ottawa had to make significant regulatory concessions. This chart compares national carbon pricing against the New Deal. Ottawa lowered the carbon price, delaying the $130 target to 2040. They also removed clean electricity regulations entirely for Alberta, helping double the province's power capacity by 2050. But the Prime Minister set a strict condition: no pathways, no pipeline. He wants to link the project's approval to unproven carbon capture technology, even though the signed agreement doesn't explicitly guarantee that linkage. The ink is dry, but these compromises place Ottawa's climate targets in direct opposition to Alberta's heavy crude economic goals. To reach global markets, Alberta's oil must cross the mountains, forests, and coastlines of British Columbia. That brings us to the resistance. BC's Premier has openly criticized the deal, stating he refuses to prioritize projects for leaders who use threats of leaving the country as political leverage. This friction creates what federal leaders call separation anxiety, actively straining the relationship between neighboring provinces. For British Columbia, approving this route feels like rewarding bad behavior, turning what should be a logistics problem into a severe test of national cohesion. Politicians can sign all the agreements they want, but they can't bypass the law. The project faces a strict legal duty to consult with indigenous communities along any proposed route. While the government promises indigenous economic benefits and opportunities for co-ownership, some local leaders are vehemently opposed, dismissing the consultation efforts as mere lip service. Then there are the private investors. Despite the Prime Minister insisting that the pipeline is an attractive asset, the market remains skeptical of a project facing heavy regional opposition and lacking a map. If a private corporate backer doesn't emerge by the July submission deadline, the massive financial burden falls squarely on government shoulders. These wild cards, indigenous communities, and private capital, will ultimately determine if that 2027 construction date is a reality or just a political talking point. In October, Ottawa will officially designate this pipeline in the national interest, a move that locks it into the regulatory track. This physical infrastructure forces Canada to balance its immense energy production capacity against its strict climate commitments. And this domestic tug-of-war is happening against a backdrop of global oil supply constraints, where sky-high gas prices are already putting a strain on ordinary Canadians. The economic prize is clear: accessing deep-water ports on the West Coast to sell Alberta's heavy crude directly to lucrative overseas markets. Ottawa and Alberta have paved a pathway, but it leads directly into a political war zone. The clock is ticking down to 2027, and someone has to make the next move.